Imagine you are in charge of an entire nation. You have limitless amounts of power and wealth at your disposal. You can do whatever you want and no one can stop you. How would you use such power? Would you be a benevolent leader and make your people's lives better? Maybe you'd go down in history as a wise ruler. Or maybe, just maybe, you'd decide to fiddle while the world burned around you. If you guessed that last option, you'd be right on the money, because that is exactly what this week's subject did. Nero was born on December 15, 37 AD. His father was Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, and his mother was a woman named Agrippina the Younger, Augustus's great-granddaughter. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, doesn't that mean he was related to Augustus, the first emperor of Rome? And you would be right. Nero was Augustus's great-great-grandson, which made him part of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, a group of relatives who held the title of emperor for most of the 1st century AD. Nero was only 3 years old when his father died, but here his fortune turned. Claudius, the current emperor, married Nero's mother Agrippina. Claudius adopted Nero as his own and had him named heir. But by AD 54, he too went to join the other souls in the underworld. So at the age of 16, Nero became the 5th emperor of Rome. But here's where things get a little complicated. See, Nero had become emperor through the actions of Agrippina, who poisoned the emperor Claudius after convincing him to adopt Nero as his heir. Knowing she had made him emperor, Nero feared her power. Following an incestuous affair with her, shocking to us but not so abnormal among Roman elites, he stripped her of her authority. After trying unsuccessfully to kill her several times, he finally sent a boat designed to sink to transport her to a party. The boat did sink, but she swam to shore. In desperation, Nero ordered a soldier to kill her. Without tears or any signs of sorrow, he examined her lifeless body. Then, while others mourned, he coldly asked for some wine. By the age of 21, Nero had his mother, grandmother, and even his own sister killed, and he exiled his father. Nero was at this time married to Octavia, daughter of his stepfather Claudius. They had married under the arrangement of Agrippina, but in 8 years had failed to bear any children. Nero fell in love with a woman named Poppaea Sabina, who was married to a senator. He had an affair with her and she became pregnant. He wanted her all to himself, so he had her husband put to death. Poppaea pressured Nero to divorce and later execute his first wife and stepsister Octavia. But Poppaea herself was also to become one of Nero's victims. And although Nero claimed he was innocent, many Roman historians agree he was likely responsible for her death. Suetonius, an early Roman historian, claimed the couple quarreled fiercely over him spending too much time at the races. In a fit of rage, Nero kicked her in the abdomen, causing her death. We will never know if this was true. Personally, I prefer the theory that Poppaea may have died due to complications of miscarriage or childbirth. There is a Greek poem encrypted on a frayed piece of papyrus that reads that a deified Poppaea made a loving farewell speech to Nero before ascending off to heaven on a chariot driven by a goddess. Anyway, he quickly found a new love interest, Pythagoras, and the two got married. But Nero was always looking for his next fix, so he took on a male concubine named Sporus, who he dressed as a woman and paraded around taverns and brothels. In addition to his womanizing, Nero also developed a passion for music and poetry. He wrote a poem called The Life of Achilles and composed an 8-book epic titled The Sack of Ilium. He was also obsessed with the Greek poet Homer and once hosted a reading of Homer's Odyssey. He corrected the poet whenever he made a mistake. It wasn't uncommon for Nero to interrupt others and insist they change their speeches or writings to match his own style. Many thought this was a sign of his insanity. So in 64 AD, when a fire raged through Rome, destroying 7 of the 14 districts, many believed Nero was behind it. There's absolutely no evidence to support this theory, but it makes sense, right? I mean, this guy orchestrated the deaths of his mother, grandmother, sister, and several others. He started pointless wars with neighboring nations. He hosted feasts inviting 8 men of only one type, bald, short, or fat, and he chained women to chariots like horses and whipped them as they pulled him around. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that he started a devastating fire in Rome, right? So as the fire spread, Nero enjoyed watching from the Palatine Hill. laughing and clapping, saying, "At last, a chance to show Rome what I can do." He may not have started the fire, but he certainly benefited from it. While it raged, he entertained guests and delighted in throwing gold coins into the crowd from his palace window. One historian reported that Nero even planned to use the fire to inaugurate a new 8-man chariot team by tossing their competitors' chariots into the flames. While the fire burned for 6 days, Nero sang and danced, drank wine, and prostituted himself in taverns and brothels. Some say he cut off the golden roof tiles from his palace and used them to line his own pockets. When the fire finally stopped, he toured the damage in a golden chariot, and to honor his contribution to the reconstruction, statues of him were erected all across Rome. You've got to hand it to the man. He knew how to take advantage of a situation. While Nero was busy filling his pockets during the fire, he overlooked something quite important: the anger of the Roman people. Sure, they initially cheered him as he threw his gold coins into the crowd, but once the fire was put out, they realized the extent of the damage and they turned on him. The people blamed Nero for starting the fire, even though he wasn't responsible. They stormed the palace and demanded he be executed, but he refused to leave and instead hid in a vault underneath the palace. It was at this point that Nero's Praetorian advisor Burrus came to him and said, "Stop resisting, Nero. Leave the city quietly and live out the rest of your life in exile. That's all you can do now." But Nero refused to listen. Instead, he barricaded himself in the vault with 200 elite soldiers planning to fight to the death. However, before any bloodshed could occur, his commander Tigellinus deserted him. Nero fled. As they were driving away from Rome, Nero looked back and saw the angry mob chasing after them. Finally, realizing his plight and fearing for a brutal death at the hands of others, Nero prepared himself, pacing up and down muttering, "Qualis artifex pareo." What an artist the world is losing. Nero died by his own hand. Although he requested to be buried beside Augustus, his body was thrown into a common grave alongside criminals and slaves. The Roman populace and the Praetorian Guard may have later came to regret that they had lost such a liberal patron. But to his subjects, Nero had been a tyrant that even threatened the survival of the Roman Empire. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, stay tuned for more stories about the craziest people in history.